Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Fantasy Fanbase. My name is Joey, and today I will be going over so much news about KotLC Book 10. And we won't have to call it Book 10 anymore because in this video I'm going to be revealing the title of Book 10 as long as reading to you guys the first chapter of Book 10. So I mean, it goes without saying that Shannon Messenger has provided us with a lot of news regarding Book 10. I'll be explaining all of it to you guys, do not worry, and we're going to jump straight into it. But before we do, make sure to leave a like on the video, comment down below what you're most excited to see in Book 10, and make sure you're subscribed. So I don't want to waste anyone's time at all, so here it is. The title of Book 10, you probably might have guessed it, is Elysian. It was a little bit obvious and a little bit expected, but it fits, it really does fit, no pun intended. And let's read her post real quick. She says, "This is going to make a lot of you ask, okay, so when is Elysian coming out? And right now, the best answer I can say is soon. I still don't have the exact release date because I'm still writing it. And I would have to assume, if I want to give you guys an estimate of when when Elysian is coming out, it's probably going to follow her normal release cycle and release somewhere around fall of 2026, usually right around the start of November. But Shannon was nice enough to include a sneak peek. She did release the first chapter of Elysian to us right now. We can read it. But right before we do that, I want to give you guys some extra news. As you know, Shannon always lets fans vote on the color and style of Iggy in every single book. And I absolutely love this as it lets us, have some sort of input, make a difference into the book that she's writing. So it's really cool for her to do that. And the fans voted him to be long and silky. And I think this was the best choice, and I think this is the best option by far. He looks like an old man. He looks like he has a lot of wisdom. When I think of the stars and like the long fur, it just makes him look really smart and sophisticated. So there we have it. In Elysian, Iggy will be long and silky and starry. So pretty cool. All right, now what you have been waiting for. I will be reading to you guys the entirety of chapter 1 of Elysian, and I hope you guys like my voice because I'll be doing my best audiobook impression. Let's get straight into it. Chapter 1. What does that mean? No one acknowledged Sophie's question. Everyone was too busy shouting over each other, a thunderous storm of how and where and why, and most important, who. Who was this strange, gray-cloaked female who'd appeared out of thin air and announced in a dark, melodic voice that her name was Elysian and she was the power source they were all looking for? How was this possible? How could a person be a power source? Better yet, what did she want? And how afraid should they be? They were already facing down one murderer and an army of bloodthirsty mutant trolls, and their only bodyguard had been captured. But this new arrival could prove to be infinitely more terrifying. Elysian didn't offer any clues or clarifications. She just pulled her hood tighter around her neck, keeping her face noticeably hidden as she stood eerily silent until Lady Gisella's haughty, horrible voice raised the question that Sophie wished she'd thought of to ask first. "What did you do to us?" Elysian spun toward her. "I have done nothing." "Oh, really?" Lady Gisela stretched out her hand, snapped her fingers, and nothing happened. Sophie wasn't sure if she was relieved. She definitely didn't mind that Keith's mom couldn't conjure up another terrifying shard of rock, especially since the last one had somehow turned Vespera into a lifeless, twisted, red-stained spire. But Lady Gisela's ability wasn't the only one currently malfunctioning. Sophie had been in the middle of a particularly intense rage frenzy when it felt like someone reached into her brain and somehow flicked off her inflicting. She could also hear what anyone was thinking, and none of her friends were responding to her transmissions. Marco's force field had also vanished, and Morella's fireballs were nothing more than whips of smoke, and Fitz kept rubbing his temples like he had a terrible migraine while Keith stared numbly at his hands. For the moment, they seemed to be talentless. But how was that possible? Abilities couldn't be switched off, everyone knew that. So what was happening? And was it permanent? All Elysian said was, "I'm not responsible for what happens to trespassers." "But you know what's causing our current limitations?" Lady Gisela pressed, her trailing her fingers across the metal net covering her sleek blonde updo. The gadget usually shielded her from special abilities, but it hadn't spared her from the effects of whatever this was. Even her creepy trolls had halted their attacks. The four of them now flanked Gisela, but their eyes were glazed, and their jaws had fallen slack. "Is this the reason you call yourself a power source?" Gisela wondered. "Or is it how the council has contained you? Or maybe—" "I'm not here to solve your mysteries," Elysian interrupted. "Then why are you here?" Fitz, Sophie, Keith, Morella, and Marca all asked in unison. "I am always here. It is you who do not belong." Elysian angled her head towards the enormous stained glass dome, encasing everything around them, painting the rolling hills with glints of colorful light. "I want to know how you found me." "You'll have to ask her." Lady Gisela waved her hand towards Sophie. She's the one who brought everyone here. I simply followed my tracker. And you can relax, Keith. It wasn't you. This time. Then who was it? Sophie demanded. Doesn't matter, Keith said, rushing to her side like he knew she was tempted to lunge for his mom's throat. She's just trying to distract us. Probably buying time for her creepy trolls to recover so she can have them haul Elysian away. If that is your plan, you will strongly regret it, Elysian warned, as flashbacks of Sandra's brutal abduction tore through Sophie's head, feeling just as sharp as the fangs and claws of the trolls who'd grabbed him. Her loyal bodyguard rarely showed any trace of fear, but his eyes had looked haunted as he disappeared into the earth. We'll get him back, she promised herself, studying the mound of dirt where Sandor had been dragged under, relieved to see no hint of blood. Maybe if we... I believe you, Lady Gisela said, interrupting Sophie's hasty rescue plans. But there's no need for such dramatics. After all, we're just having a nice, friendly conversation, aren't we? In fact, she tapped her silver earpiece and mumbled something Sophie couldn't understand. See, she said as all 4 trolls tunneled back into the soil. It's a good thing I memorized their commands, since my mastery of language seems to have left me for the moment. Care to explain why? Elysian shook her head, then adjusted her hood to cover a few strands of long red hair that had slipped free. I want to know how you found me. Lady Gisela sighed and pointed to Sophie. Like I said, you'll have to ask her. She's what you might call their leader. Yeah, and I found this place by tracking down your lost starstone, Sophie reminded her. Starstones only go somewhere where they've already been, so why don't you tell us how you got here the first time? You've been here before? Elysian murmured. I do not remember that. Probably because I didn't stay very long. I didn't understand what I found. Clearly, I still don't. Gisela flashed a smile that was probably meant to look charming, but the too tight skin on her face warped it into something much uglier. I thought I was hunting down a place, not a person, following clues scribbled on the tatters of a long-forgotten map to Whispering Rapids and Butterfly's Kiss with Bread, where there was supposed to be a source of world-changing power. But apparently, that was a mix of half-truths and outright lies, buried under illusion after illusion, all to hide you. She moved closer, studying Elysian through narrowed eyes. You might be the best-kept secret in our world's long history. Elysian turned away. Gisela dared another step. Care to share why you've been erased and locked up for what I'm assuming has been several millennia? If you're going to launch into a big speech about how you were wronged by the council, or tell us why you're this new, ultra-scary villain we're going to have to deal with, can you try to keep it short? We've had to listen to a lot of those kinds of speeches, Morella said. Yeah, we have, Keith muttered. Mommy Dearest is a master of them. In fact, I'm sure she'll be treating us to her boring sales pitch any minute now, trying to convince you to join her side, which I 1000% don't recommend, by the way. I will not be making any alliances, Elysian assured him, though that meant she wasn't planning to be on their side either, assuming they could believe anything she said. I also have no interest in making any speeches, Elysian added, but for the record, I am no villain. Gisela laughed. In my experience, you don't get trapped in a custom-built prison and wiped from history unless you've done something truly horrifying, by the council's definition at least. This is my home, not a prison, Elysian corrected. You just cannot see the true wonders of it. Does that mean there are more illusions we haven't broken through yet? Sophie asked, turning a slow circle, trying to spot another anomaly among the vibrant trees, some hint of a house or structure hidden by the light. You have already seen too much, Elysian told her, and it does not matter. What matters is that I stay here because I chose to. Ah, but that's the funny thing about choice, Gisela cut in. You can think you're doing exactly what you want, and all the while you're being manipulated. If you don't believe me, ask the Moonlark, or my son, for that matter. Easy, Foster, Keith mumbled as Sophie gritted her teeth. Let my mom keep talking. Maybe we'll get lucky and she'll annoy Elysian enough to get herself clobbered. I have no intention of harming anyone, Elysian informed him. Unlike the rest of you, I saw what you were about to do. I saw your blaze raised, fire sparked, strange reddish light erupting from your hands, and from children no less. We're not children, Fitz argued, standing up taller, and we were just defending ourselves. Yeah, maybe you saw how she turned Vespera into that freaky thing over there, Marcus said, pointing to Lady Gisela and then to the dark, jagged shape Sophie had been trying very hard not to look at. Elysian shuddered. I did see that. That was Mommy Dear's former partner, in case you were wondering, Keith told her. Keep that in mind when she gives you her little sales pitch. I don't care who she was or who any of you are, Elysian stepped closer to Gisela. I just want to know where you found that stone. Why? Gisela countered. I do not owe you any answers. I could say the same thing to you. Gisela flashed another too-tight smile. You claim to pose no threat, so why should I give you any information, especially when you refuse to extend me the same courtesy? See, Keith told Sophie, she's getting close to clobber time. Violence is not a solution, Elysian argued. Then what was with that whole "you will strongly regret it" threat you made? Keith asked. That was not a threat. That was a fact. Elysian's tone was sharper than a goblin throwing star when she added, violence is not necessary for there to be consequences. Is that because you're the power source? Gisela asked. At least explain that. After all, you're the one who brought it up. And I have already said what you need to know. I am the power in this place. That is all. Gisela raised one eyebrow. Do you really think that counts as an answer? Keith elbowed Sophie. Clobber, 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 clobber. Stop! Elysian hugged herself and took a long breath before she told Gisela, I will answer one question if you answer one of mine. That is the most I will give. Gisela considered that. Fine. Tell me why we can't use our abilities right now. I cannot answer that question, and I do not say that to be stubborn. Truly, I do not understand it. It is simply something that happens. Because of you or this place? Fitz asked. My deal is not with you, Elysian told him, and I have satisfied my end of the bargain. So now you will tell me where you found that rock, she ordered Gisela. Tell me why you care so much about it, and I will, Gisela countered. Seems only fair, since you ignore my other question. Several silent breaths crawled by before Elysian murmured, Counselor Fallon assured me that every shard had been destroyed. Gisela clapped her hands as Sophie glanced at Fitz, noting that he seemed surprised to hear the name of this ancient relative. How shocking! Another lie from the council. It is more than a lie, Elysian said quietly. It is... what? Gisela pressed. Elysian shook her head hard, not seeming to notice that the motion knocked back her hood, finally revealing her face. Pale, freckled skin, turquoise eyes, round cheeks and a snub nose, both of which made her look much younger than Sophie would have expected. If it weren't for the enormous points on her ears, Sophie might have guessed Elysian was in her early 20s, but the ears always gave the agents away. You with me, Foster? Keith whispered, making Sophie jump as he leaned in close enough for his breath to tickle her cheek. You're getting that cute little crinkle between your eyebrows right now. Does that mean you're thinking the same thing I am? Probably not, Sophie whispered back. The truth was, she hadn't really been thinking about anything, except Elysian's ears, which was extra ridiculous because she was standing there, letting Gisela run the conversation when they were in the middle of... Honestly, she had no idea how to even finish that sentence. Her brain was spinning into weirdness overload. I'm guessing the reason your pulse just sped up is because you're freaking out about Elysian and not because you're wishing I can kiss you right now, right? Keith whispered, snorting when Sophie's jaw dropped. Ha! I thought that might snap you out of your panic. Sophie glanced at Fitz to make sure he wasn't listening before she glared at Keith. I know, it's not the time, he told her. And she thought that was the end of it until he leaned in whispering, but I admit it. Now you're thinking about kissing me. Keith! He smirked. You can Keith me all you want. It won't hide that adorable blush. I'm serious, Keith, Sophie whisper-hissed, pulling her hair forward like a shield. I can't believe you're joking around right now. I can't. Do you have any idea how awesome it is to speak without worrying I'm going to give some creepy command and accidentally numb everyone? The voice of doom is gone, for the moment at least. Plus, I could tell your thoughts were spiraling, and I need you to focus. Why? Because, should I assume you two are discussing some sort of ill-conceived plan? Lady Gisela interrupted, making them both jerk away from each other. Keith recovered first. Actually, I was just trying to get Foster to relax. It wasn't like you two were going to say anything interesting. I've seen this dance before. It's all veiled threats and vague non-answers. Boring. So I figured, why not take my chance to flirt with a cute girl instead? You never know when it'll be the last time. Keith! Sophie kept her gaze firmly on her feet so she wouldn't have to see anyone's reactions, especially Fitz's. Which is probably why it took her a second to catch the warning in Keith's final words. I'm fine, Foster. I'm fine, Foster, Keith told her when her head darted up. We knew this would happen eventually. There's only one way this is ever going to end. And how's that? His mom asked. Well, let's see. Keith stepped further away from Sophie, more of a strut than a walk, which matched the confidence in his tone as he told his mom. We already know you're going to try to recruit Elysian, and it's not going to work because she's either too smart or too stubborn. I can't tell. Either way, you're eventually going to give up on your pretend we're allies plan, tap your shiny earpiece, and call back some of your nasty troll beasties so we can find out if Elysian was bluffing when she said you regret that. And I'm pretty sure she isn't bluffing, so that's when it's going to get super scary and chaotic. Lots of screaming and running around, trying not to get eaten. Maybe even some freaky stuff we'd never seen before, like whatever took our abilities away. And that's when Foster will do what Foster does best. Shift into her hero mode and come up with an awesome strategy to get her friends out of here safely, though we all know she'll probably end up in the healing center after she pulls it off. And I'm sure you'll somehow manage to get away, since you always do. And Elysian will stay here, doing whatever she does. Maybe plotting some sort of revenge for us messing up her home prison thing. Who knows? What I do know is that we'll all be stuck playing the waiting game, wondering who's going to make the next move, scrambling to come up with a plan, probably doing a bunch of boring research, and you know what? I'm really not in the mood for that. Neither am I, Marilla jumped in. Me neither, Marika added. Same, Fitz said, taking a subtle step closer to Sandor's fallen sword. For the record, I'm not a fan of that either, Elysian noted. Keith applauded. Awesome, I have a really easy way to avoid it. Do you now? His mom said. I do, because I still have hope. Hope. The word clattered around Sophie's head as Lady Gisela repeated it, then plopped to her stomach with a burning slosh when Keith's meaning sank in. Hope was the name Sophie had given her dagger. The same dagger Keith had stolen from her holster and tried to stab his mom with before Elysian appeared. Hope is the answer, Keith said, locking eyes with Sophie. Nothing is ever going to change that. Not Elysian, or whatever secrets the council has buried here. Hope is how we end this. You know I'm right. So let's stop stalling, shall we, and get this over with. With that, he drew the shiny silver dagger and lunged, tackling his mom to the ground, staining the grass red. So, that was the first chapter of Elysian. Wow, I'm surprised she gave us that much. To me, that felt really long. I don't know if it's because I was reading it out loud, but it felt pretty long to me. That being said, we have a lot to talk about, and I'm going to quickly give some sort of analysis or my initial thoughts on this. Let's go over what happened. So number one, we learn something about Elysian. We learn that yes, she didn't clarify, but it is her, or whatever's in this place, can turn off people's abilities. We knew that, we thought that was what was happening, but now we have a confirmation. We know for sure that Elysian is like a super old ancient. Obviously she was talking with Counselor Fallon, who was, I don't know however old he is, but he's super old ancient, right? So we know she's this old, powerful elf. We also learn what she looks like. Not really. Pale, freckled skin with turquoise eyes. Doesn't really describe her hair or anything. People were having theories that she's like a human. She's like a half elf, half human, whatever. But I'm pretty sure based on this, she's just fully elf. But I think the most important thing to take away from this is that Elysian is very peaceful at this point. She said herself, and she said this a million times, she's like, I'm not a villain. You know, I want peace. Please stop fighting. I don't want you guys to fight. I will not be picking a side. You know, it seemed to me that she's very reasonable, and I was surprised at that. And I feel like this is actually the best outcome. You know, people were saying, oh, we're gonna have to fight Elysian. Oh, but I actually don't, at this point, I don't think that's the case. Elysian seems like a bystander, and it still seems like Lady Gisela is the main villain. And going back to what actually happened, Keith is taking his chance. I'm surprised that this is going on right now. He took hope, he took the dagger, and according to the cliffhanger, of course there's a cliffhanger, according to the last sentence, staining the grass red. Obviously that does not by any means mean that Lady Gisela is dead. I don't want to go out and say Lady Gisela is dead, because most likely Lady Gisela is gonna survive this. Like, I don't think they would kill Lady Gisela like this. This is the main, like, Lady Gisela is the main villain. So I highly doubt she's going to die one chapter into book 10. But I think overall this chapter was very good. It gave us a lot of new stuff. The only thing I wasn't really on board with was there was so much flirting from Keith, and it kind of threw me off. Like, this is an extremely serious situation. We're finally meeting Elysian, we're talking to her in a civilized manner, and then all of a sudden there's like 2 pages of Keith flirting with Sophie. I don't know if that was a distraction, like trying to get Sophie to relax. Like, yes, I get it, but it kind of just pissed her off, and it had nothing to do with anything. So not sure why that was included or why Keith did that. Even so, you know, it was a good chapter. I really enjoyed reading it, and I want to keep reading. You know, classic cliffhanger. And there we have it. That is the first chapter of book 10, which is now called Elysian. And I want you guys to comment down below, what are your thoughts on the first chapter? I want to hear you guys' theories, thoughts, reactions, everything. Please tell me. If you enjoyed it as much as I did, please leave a like on the video and subscribe down below. We're going to post any more news right as it comes out. The next news we're expecting is the release date. She's probably going to release that soon. Release the release date, not release the book, if you get what I mean. But yeah, and I just want to say thank you for sticking around all the way to the end of the video. I also do want to apologize. We've been on like a pretty long hiatus. We haven't uploaded a video in like 5 months. Unfortunately, this is simply just because I just started college. Austin and Troy have been in college. We're doing our own thing, and unfortunately this YouTube channel dropped from being a super high priority to somewhere down low. And now that I'm back on winter vacation, I wanted to start putting out content. That's the first thing I did when I got here. I'm like, I want to upload a YouTube video. But we do have something very special coming up in the new year. I won't say much, but it is musically inclined, and it's going to be super fun. And that's going to be it for this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.